Hey fellow gardeners, as we continue thinking about ways to refresh and restructure our garden heading into the fall, we've been looking for more native, drought-tolerant plants that can actually handle the El Paso heat. So my wife and I started putting together a plant wish list, and we thought we'd share some of our favorites with you. And we're starting with one of the brightest and toughest plants on the list. This is the desert marigold. It's native across the Southwest, including right here in the Chihuahuan Desert, and it's built for full sun and extremely dry conditions. Now, what makes this one especially useful for us is the size. It grows low, but those tall flower stalks still lift the color above everything else around them. And as the flower ages, the petals fade to a pale papery yellow, which is why it's also called a paper daisy. There is one catch though, the desert marigold isn't always a long-lived perennial. Depending on the conditions, it may behave more like a biennial or even an annual, but it also reseeds readily. So instead of depending on one plant to live forever, the goal is to let the new plants keep the display going. For us, that trade-off makes sense. Bright flowers, low water, and something we could realistically start from seed. Desert marigold is a great way to start off our list. This is Scarlet Betony. Now, most of the plants on this list want all the sun that you can give them, but this plant is different, and that's exactly why it belongs here. It's a southwestern native, but in the wild, it tends to find protected places, canyon bottoms, rocky crevices, and areas where a little bit of extra moisture collects. We're looking for morning sun, afternoon shade, and a place where we can give it some help during the driest parts of the summer. The payoff is that incredible red color. Those tubular flowers can continue into the fall, and they're practically designed for hummingbirds. I'm not sure we have a perfect location for it yet, but a native plant that brings red flowers and hummingbirds into a shaded part of the garden is exactly why it's perfect for our wish list. This is Chihuahua Tansyaster. And what immediately puts it on our wish list is that it truly belongs to the Chihuahuan Desert. It naturally grows in New Mexico, West Texas, Chihuahua, and the dry country surrounding our region, and there's something appealing about choosing a plant that isn't simply expected to survive our climate. This is the climate it was built for. It wants full sun, lean soil, and good drainage. And once it's established, it should be able to handle the serious heat with very little help from us. For our garden, that could bring in the look of the desert without making the bed feel overly designed or too formal. Now, this may not be the flashiest plant on the list, but it's definitely one of the most authentic. It gives us yellow color from spring into fall, needs very little water, and already knows how to live in the same desert that we do. This is what makes this plant hopefully destined to be part of our garden redesign. This is Dotted Blazing Star, and at first glance, it looks almost too delicate to be one of the toughest plants on the list. It's a native of dry prairies, rocky uplands, and grasslands across New Mexico and Texas. And unlike the taller blazing star commonly sold in garden centers, this western species usually stays around 1 to 2 feet tall. Those purple flowers arrive during late summer and early fall, usually right when many other plants are beginning to slow down. And the most impressive part of this plant is something that we normally don't even see. That relatively small clump can develop a massive taproot, something reaching several feet into the ground in search of moisture. For our garden, we could picture this mixed with native grasses or lower growing flowers where those purple spikes could rise above everything else without taking over the bed. But we would need to choose the location carefully. Once that root gets established, this is not a plant that wants to be dug up and moved around. And it may take a little bit of patience to get going, but a plant that can survive for decades, bloom into fall, and survive by sending its root deep underground feels like a pretty good long-term investment. This is Damianita. And what we like about this one is that it gives you that clean, finished garden look without needing to be treated like a delicate garden plant. It's a true Chihuahuan Desert native found across West Texas, northern Mexico, and New Mexico. It naturally grows in caliche, limestone, gravel, and exposed rocky ground, which already makes it well suited for life around El Paso. Now, even when it isn't covered in flowers, it forms a tight mound of dark green needle-like foliage, and the leaves are very strongly aromatic when touched. Now, during a mild winter, the plant can stay evergreen or at least semi-evergreen. This is the kind of plant that we could picture near a pathway, besides rocks and cactuses, or in one of those exposed places where softer plants just give up. It's going to want full sun, sharp drainage, and much less water than most of us would probably be tempted to give it. Now, for us, the Damianita may be one of the most practical plants on the entire list. It stays compact, it doesn't spread everywhere, it handles terrible soil and brutal heat, and it still looks like something you planted on purpose. That combination is sure hard to beat. Black Grama was one of the most dominant grasses across large parts of southern New Mexico, West Texas, and northern Mexico. This isn't simply just a grass that tolerates the Chihuahuan Desert, it helped define the landscape. It responds to the summer monsoon, sending up flowering stems after a meaningful rain. By late summer and fall, those stems bring movement and texture, and they can remain standing into winter long after the brighter flowers around them have disappeared. Its character is in the details: fine leaves, wiry stems, and small tufts of white hair around the lower joints, which is why it's also called the woollyfoot grama. What we like is how it could tie the entire planting together. Instead of every plant sitting alone like an individual specimen, the grass could move between the flowers, rocks, agaves, and shrubs and make the garden feel more like a landscape. The challenge may be finding it. It can be slow to establish, viable seeds are not always dependable, and nursery plants are not exactly sitting outside of every garden center. But that's what makes the search more interesting. Black grama may never be the showiest plant in our garden, but it could be the one plant that finally makes the whole thing feel like it belongs here together. This is skeleton leaf goldeneye. It's a true Chihuahuan Desert native built for rocky soil, dry air, intense sun, and unpredictable rainfall. And unlike some of the plants on our wish list that we would be taking a chance on, this one has already proven it belongs here. The flowers can build through late summer, continue through October, and sometimes keep going until frost. That gives pollinators another food source at exactly the right time many other plants are beginning to shut down. For our redesign, this could give us the same general golden flower effect as a tall sunflower, but in a much more manageable, desert-adapted form. It handles our heat, blooms into fall, and stays reasonably compact, and it already belongs to the landscape. Skeleton leaf goldeneye may be one of the strongest candidates on our entire wish list. This is Scarlet Beeblossom. It's a drought-tolerant Southwest native that grows naturally in dry grasslands, rocky slopes, and the open grounds across New Mexico, Texas, and much of the West. The detail that really caught our attention is the color change. Each flower opens pale, then gradually shifts through pink, rose, and sometimes scarlet before it closes. A single flower may not even last a full day, but the new ones continue opening all along the stems. Now this plant blooms in the evening, which makes it especially useful for moths and other nighttime pollinators. And after a summer rain or with an occasional watering, the flowering can continue into September or even October. Now the Scarlet Beeblossom is best suited to be in a contained meadow area, an informal corner, or even a large pot where we can keep an eye on it. It may not be the neatest or easiest plant on our list, but it gives us changing flower color, nighttime pollinator value, and is a true native to add to our list. This is three-nerve goldenrod. It's a western native found across New Mexico, Texas, and northern Mexico. It gives us that familiar goldenrod look, but in a species that actually belongs in this part of the country. And this is a genuine late season bloomer. The flowers build through summer and can continue all the way into October. Now the name comes from the leaves. Many of them have 3 strong veins running from the base towards the tip. Now this one can handle dry conditions, but it's not really meant for the absolute driest corner of the yard. It would probably look better near occasional runoff, a drip line, or a low spot that catches a little bit of extra moisture. And because it spreads through underground rhizomes, we would also need to give it room or be prepared to keep it in bounds. But in the right space, it could give us exactly what we're looking for: golden fall color, a natural meadow feel, and one more food source for pollinators before winter. This is Mexican fire flame acanthus. Mexican fire is a selected form of flame acanthus, a shrub native to southwest Texas and northern Mexico. It was chosen for its deeper green foliage, stronger red flowers, and a long bloom season that can stretch from early summer well into fall. It can reach 4 or 5 feet tall and wide, so we'd need to treat it like a real shrub, not just squeeze it into an empty corner and hope that it behaves. Now it handles full sun, intense heat, and just about any reasonable soil that we can give it. Flame acanthus will survive on low water once it's established, but an occasional deep irrigation during summer should give it a much better flower show. This is the kind of plant that becomes more than just an item in the garden. It could become a focal point. It gives us size, fiery color, months of flowers, and a very good reason for hummingbirds to keep coming back. So yes, Mexican fire is staying near the top of our wish list. If you're into this kind of Southwest gardening, we would love to have you subscribe and follow along as we continue figuring out which of these actually make it into our garden. Now, some of these plants are tough desert specialists, some need a protected corner or a little bit of seasonal moisture, and a few may be harder to find than they are to grow. But together, they give us a much clearer picture of what our future garden could become: more native plants and less water, and hopefully a lot more color carrying us from the end of summer into fall. Now comes the difficult part:
actually finding them. Which one would you put at the top of your own wish list? Let us know, and if you're already growing any of these in your own garden, we would love to hear how they're performing.